Greetings, earthbound travelers. By Garth Dokeen's Sacred Taint, it is Friday, and we're back at you with another edition of Cast Guidance. I am your host for this tomfoolery, if you will. This rules minutia bullshit. I am Locke Clark. With me, as always, is Raph the Mad. Hi, Raph.
Greetings, gamers. How you doing today?
First, a couple of housekeeping things, and then we're going to get into stuff. We're going to talk about a new system today. That'll be fun. So, firstly, we are for mature audiences. If you are not mature enough to handle this bullshit, then you should not be here and you should leave. We are going to use the word fuck a lot, probably, because that's just who we are. And if you're not down with that, bye. It was nice to see you. Hope you have a good day. Secondly, we are not associated with any TTRPG. We are just two questionable individuals giving our questionable opinions about rules minutia because we like to be pedantic. And finally, we're going to take a moment to talk to you first about our musicians. They're the people that provide, they're the person, I should say, in this case. People are on the other nights we Twitch. But the person who provides our theme song for this show, which is amazing, and that's our very own Patrick Taylor. Thanks, Peculiar Patrick, wherever you might be today. Also, we'd like to take a moment to thank one of our partners, and that is Red Panda Dice and Delights. Red Panda are fine purveyors of luxury dice for all your sexy dice needs. And you should go check them out at redpandadice.com. Get yourself some cool dice. They have cool red pandas on the 6s and on the 20s. And you should get some of these. They're coming really cool. Look how cool the colors on that one are. Ignore my nails. I've been polishing jewelry. My nails look like shit. But they are awesome. And you should get yourself a set. And to do that, you're going to go to redpandadice.com. And you can get a plushie while you're there too. They got cool red panda plushies, and you will like them. Raph, what do you got to say?
Yes, good day, chums. I do believe today we should all go out to patreon.com and look up Will of the Dice. Yes, Will of the Dice. It's a wonderful place. Look it up, subscribe, help support them. They're good chaps. They need all the support they can get. If you support them, you do get access to After the Rolls, which is really cool. They talk about the clusterfuckery and tomfoolery that their DM, Tier the DM, does to them on a weekly basis. Also, you get access to some audio biographies. You get access to all the episodes they do ahead of time. Exclusive access. It's really good. So yes, dear chums, please go hit subscribe. It really does help support the channel. It really does, people. Subscribe. It does help us out very much. We very much appreciate those that do. Also, in addition to that, if you go out to Will of the Dice website, there's something really cool called merchandise. Click on it. You can get some really cool things like a t-shirt, which you can kind of see. Haha, that's Sarek. Yes, and Locke's got Laz. So yes, go buy our stuff.
Also, look at this hoodie. Look how cool this hoodie is. It's a hoodie. It's very soft. It's lovely. And then on the back, it's got the logo and it says, have you been forsaken to the will of the dice? It is awesome. Go rep us. Wear some merch.
Yep. So,
and also for the next 17 people who subscribe to our Patreon, you will get this chunk. Not this exact one. This one's mine. You can't ask, but you can get this chunk, 55 millimeter D20 from Red Panda, with the Red Panda logo on the 20. Look how chunky and pretty that is. Look at it. Oh, my God. So to get your own Table Shaker 55 millimeter D20 from Red Panda, go sign up to our Patreon. All right. I think that's it for the announcements for right now.
Yay.
And now we can get into this. Today, we're going to talk about Critical Role has put out a new system. And I'm telling you, it looks really good. It's called Candela Obscura. They put out a video that was kind of a primer on the system. They have played the first game in the system on Twitch. We did not get to watch it. It will be out on YouTube probably by the end of the week. And they put out for free in their merch store a quick start guide, which is the base rules that you can go and download for free from the from shop.criticalrole.com. And so we're going to be going through that today, and we're going to be talking about the system.
Yeah. It's interesting.
Wait, hold on. Siri Cat in the chat, who is the proprietor of Red Panda Dice, says that they might even be 60 millimeter. That I mean, I don't know. I don't have a caliper with me to measure it with, but yeah, and apparently has been on a kick of making them. So there you go. Yeah. So this is exciting. This is a very narrative-based system. It very much, it's a D6 system. It is very reminiscent of Powered by the Apocalypse or Forged in the Dark. If you've played Apocalypse World or Monster of the Week or Thirsty Sword Lesbians or Brindlewood Bay Mysteries, or the list goes on and on, or Blades in the Dark or Scum and Villainy. If you played any of those systems or the myriad of others that are powered by that same engine, they've created their own engine, which they are calling the Illumination engine, I think, or something along those lines.
Yes.
That is powering this. It is similar. It's very reminiscent. So if you played those games, this will be easy to jump into. I think one of the big draws of this system in particular, though, they seem to have designed it with streaming in mind.
Yes, they have.
Because one of the biggest complaints, Critical Role being the biggest actual play podcast / stream out there, is the complaints is they've got too much material. Where do you jump in? You know, their campaigns are 100 episodes long. They've done, or more. They've done 3 campaigns. Every episode is 3 to 4 hours. It's a big back catalog for you to jump into.
Yes.
So, like, it's very daunting if you want to get started. It appears to me, this is me from the outside looking in, it appears to me that they have looked at that and said, how can we build a game system that it's easy for somebody to jump in almost anywhere on in a stream setting and see what's going on. So that's the thing.
I'm also gonna throw up the first tangent real quick already.
Okay, tangent me.
All right. And with this system in particular, just in general, the systems we've seen coming out in, this decade, in the past few years, we've seen a shift from the highly rules heavy, highly combat tactical paced to very narrative style game systems. The shift has gone away from the super rules heavy, everything's about combat, everything. You have to have a solid combat system to a more narrative, rules like play system that's very much storyteller driven, story driven. Being an old grognard, I remember the old days of first edition D&D basic and some of the other very heavy games. Now we're into a very different style of game.
Look, we had Rollmaster. Okay. We had champions that required a fucking algorithm to play. And now there's been a cultural shift where like seemingly the vast majority of players, and I'm gonna jump out here and credit video games. I think video games are the main driver. You look at what video games were when we were playing rules heavy D&D back in the day. And it was go out, get loot, power up, be able to take on bigger, badder things and get more loot. And that's what the video games of the time were.
Yes.
Once video games came around, but like basic D&D was basic D&D. Once you got into advanced D&D in second edition, video games were popular. Were starting to become popular, and that formula sort of was pervasive into the larger gaming community. As video games have developed, have gotten more complicated, have gotten better, we have seen the games that have succeeded more and more being more story driven.
Yes.
Think about Last of Us. Last of Us is a very narrative driven game where you sit through these in-depth sort of cutscenes and narrative points, and then you have to play the action beat in between.
Yep.
And that is kind of emblematic of where video games are now. There's a lot of open world games where you can just go run around and play, but there is a solid narrative in those. And it's a high hurdle to make for game designers to be able to make a good narrative that fits in a world where you can go anywhere and do anything. I've been playing Star Wars Jedi Survivor, and they have nailed that. Like,
Good.
it feels open and immersive, and you can run around and you feel like you're a powerful Jedi in this world. And yet the narrative beats, for the most part, feel good throughout. I mean, like, there's a few things where, like, I defeated the main boss of this faction, yet there are still members of that faction running around on patrols that I still encounter and have to fight. And that feels, that can be a little off-putting, but, like, it's a concession you make to gameplay, right? So with that shift in the video game industry and that data being out there showing what people gravitate towards, it's no wonder that even D&D has started shifting towards narrative. And I think the people that want more narrative play are looking at the D&D rules and feeling maybe a little stifled by them. A little like, the rules say we have to do this, but that doesn't narratively fit the story we're telling. And so in order to make it narratively fit, we have to bend or break the rules of D&D to do it. And then you get systems like this one, like Powered by the Apocalypse, like Forged in the Dark, where you get a system that is a true collaborative storytelling system.
Mm-hmm.
Where the DM just sort of presents you options and then you figure out how you're doing it. And there isn't a wrong answer generally. And that failing feels almost as good as succeeding because failing brings consequences, which makes the story more interesting. So that's,
Yeah. And like I said, it's a trend that we're starting to see, and it's interesting, and it's, for the most part, it's pretty good. I enjoy it. I enjoy a lot of what I'm seeing.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
Especially with this game. This game has some very interesting mechanics behind it. I'm like, that very much require a group effort. It's not a individual character coming together. This is a group. This is a group game. This is not an individual game.
The best comparison for this game that I have heard so far is that it's dark horror Scooby-Doo.
Yes.
That you have this group of people who belong to an organization that hunts down paranormal. That's where the title of the game comes from. Candela Obscura is the organization you are part of. And so you are the crew of Mystery Incorporated. You could call it Mystery Incorporated if you want, seriously. And then you go out, except that the supernatural is real. It's not Old Man Jenkins behind the mask the whole time. It's an actual ghost or whatever, and your job is to stop them. I'm gonna jump for just a second if I can find where they are to the character sheets that are provided.
Yes.
And right at the top of the character sheet, there are 6 blanks to fill in at the top of the character sheet. You have your name. You have your pronouns, You have your circle. Circle is Blades in the Dark equivalent would be your crew. So that's the circle of the Candela Obscura organization that you are a part of. So these are the people in your mystery machine riding around fighting ghosts. Your style, which is just there to help you like envision your character. And then these last two, this reminds me a lot of like you ever played Vampire the Masquerade?
Yes.
And I'm going to make that comparison several times here too, because that's the other place where I feel like they're drawing inspiration from. I know Taliesin Jaffe is a longtime Vampire player, and I know he had a big part in the designing of this game. So in Vampire the Masquerade, you had your nature and your demeanor at the top of the sheet. Your nature was what you were truly like. And there were a list of adjectives that the game provided for you to fill in to understand the nature of your character. Where, if you boil this character down, what is it? Is it a survivor? Is it a profiteer? Is it, whatever? And then your demeanor was how you present yourself to the world. And having the answer to those two questions really gave you insight to the vampire you were playing, right? Here we have catalyst. Now your catalyst is the thing that started you on your journey. It's the reason you joined Candela Obscura. It is the inciting incident of your character. And then question. The question is the answer you are looking for. It's the thing that drives you. What question are you seeking?
And that I like, because that's a goal. I want to find out about this. It can be driven by your inciting incident. Something scary killed off my sister. I want to find out that creature and kill them. That's your question. What killed my sister?
Right.
And what does that mean for your character if you ever find out?
Right. And that's a great thing too, in that, like, finding out, like, all right, so let's roll with your example for a second. My inciting incident is my sister was killed by some monster, some creature. And so that's my catalyst. The creature attacked my sister. Candela Obscura showed up to investigate. Or I heard rumors and I sought them out and I joined because I had this thing happen to my sister. My question is, what is this creature and how do we stop it? Well, finding out those answers might open new questions, and then your question can change. You find out that the creature was, I don't know, we only have a starter guide, so I don't have any of like the monster stats or anything for this game. I don't know how you make monsters in this game yet, but that's I haven't got to really delve through it yet either, so it may be in the quick start guide, or at least a couple of examples might be there. But let's say it's a demon that possesses people or has to be summoned. It's a demon that is summoned. And so now I find out what the thing is and we stop the demon. But now the question is, who summoned the demon and why? And that's now my motivation, is to find who's responsible for that monster being loose. And that's a whole nother series. You know what I mean? Like, so answering those questions can just open up more questions. And that is a beautiful thing. I dig it.
Yeah, I wouldn't hold my breath on a bestiary.
All right. So judging off of like, one of my favorite versions of Powered by the Apocalypse is Monster of the Week.
Mm-hmm.
And Monster of the Week doesn't have a bestiary, even though it's a monster-driven game, right? It is, it gives you a set of instructions on how to construct your monster. And for that game, the way they structure that game, if you want to play it as an arc, as a campaign, they give you a way to have your big bad and have the big bad have minions. And those minions are the monster of the week monsters you fight. But those things tie together and eventually will lead you to the big bad. And
Mhm.
so that is built into their system. I'm sure there is a way in the system. There is a
There's something here, and because the quick start guide comes with one adventure in it already.
yes.
And I quickly scrolled through it, and at the end, I won't reveal it, but basically the creature at the end, it says it literally said it's up to you to decide what this monster looks like in your adventure, what kind of sounds, smells, strange effects it creates, and how it's and whatnot. So it literally tells it's up to the DM to decide, or the GM to decide what this creature is and what it looks like and what it does.
Well, there you go.
And since looking at the game system itself, which we probably should get into, since it's all a series of tests, stat tests, roll tests to do things. I'm going to try something. Okay, use this skill to try and do it. It really doesn't make sense for the creature to have a stat line. There is no stat line.
You know what it feels like to me? It feels like that rule I've heard some DMs use, and I'm a big proponent of it. I love it as a rule. That when does combat end? Combat ends when it stops being fun.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like that's
No. We've never used that rule.
So
never used that rule whatsoever.
That rule is the DM doesn't track the hit points of the monster. When you've done enough damage that it feels right that the monster should get killed, the DM goes, all right, you tell me how it dies. Like it feels right.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what the system feels like. It's like it's giving the DM permission to, when it feels right and they've done the right thing for the story. Now, but I'm going to caution people as I say that. That doesn't mean I'm going to create this monster and it has this one very specific thing that you have to do, and you have to succeed the test to do that one specific thing, and that's the only way to get rid of the monster. That is not the way the system is designed to work. The system is designed to work that you've presented a problem, a puzzle for your players, and the idea is that to listen to them and consider what they're doing and go, would that get rid of it? Maybe it would. And then reward their success or failure.
Mm-hmm.
Don't be locked into there's only one thing. You can't be. This game is not about that sort of rigid structure. So don't impose rigid structure where there isn't supposed to be rigid structure. Is my yeah.
So should we get into actual rules and how this thing plays out? We could dance around all over the place. With our ADHD choices.
Absolutely. I think we've talked enough about so just some real quick terms. Average citizens neither know about or believe in magic or its effects in this world. So you are special in that way. Every character is someone who has experienced magic and knows it's real. The barrier between the real world and the beyond is called the flare, and the flare in some places is weakened. These are referred to as thinnings. Thinnings allow metaphysical energy, known as magic, to seep in through the flare. Myths, legends, and folktales of the Fairlands are stories created to explain real magical phenomena.
The Fairlands, kind of like the Feylands?
Something like that, yeah.
Yes.
Members of Candela Obscura are investigators of supernatural phenomena attempting to protect the world from these dangers by securing and studying them. The organization has a hierarchy that includes the Council of Lightkeepers, who direct the resources of Candela Obscura. The party is sent out by Lightkeepers to investigate phenomenon known as a circle. The mission is known as an assignment. So wherein, like Blades in the Dark, you have You have a crew who takes a job. In Candela Obscura, you have a circle who gets an assignment.
Mm-hmm. Now here's some interesting things. Let's see, rules of magic. Magic can become infused in mundane objects, places, or beings, permanently altering them. If a thinning is opened wide enough, creatures from beyond may also come through. Anything affected by magic or from another realm is known as a phenomenon. Bleed is the corruptive force left behind by powerful magic. This bleed also radiates from the phenomena that have made incursions in the world. When a person has too much bleed, they may be taken over by these supernatural forces, become corrupted, or die. The manifestation of bleed varies based on the phenomenon. People with inherent magic are rare in the mundane world. Many Candela Obscura members interact with magic by wielding powerful artifacts. These items may also reduce, contain, or eliminate bleed. So basically, magic is a nasty radiation that can most likely hurt you, occasionally help you.
Right. Okay, so just to jump, we're gonna go through dice mechanics real quick for this.
Yeah,
they're pretty
they're
easy.
very interesting too.
Yeah, and this is where you'll see like this is where it's the most similar to Forged in the Dark, I think, but with enough differences to be interesting and separate. You have three basic categories of stats. You have nerve, which is kind of physical. You have cunning, which is your social, and you have intuition, which is your
Mental.
mental. Yeah, I kept wanting to say intellectual, and I knew that wasn't the right word. So under nerve, you have move, strike, or control. Under cunning, you have sway, read, or hide. And under intuition, you have survey, focus, or sense.
Mm-hmm. And next to these, they have descriptors, kind of what kind of goes into that. Like for move, it's run, dodge, navigate. Or for control, it's drive, shoot, finesse.
Right.
So it helps. They got something there that you understand a little bit more what you're looking at for types of tests.
And I feel like I didn't read the rules thoroughly enough because, like I said, we only just got our hands on it this morning. But I feel like this is a system like with Forged in the Dark, where if you can make a good enough case to your DM, you can argue for using almost any stat to do almost anything. That doesn't mean your GM's going to buy it, but if you can make a good enough case, you know, like, I'm trying to think of a good one. Like, all right, I mean, like, you could make a case for using move instead of hide. If you are slipping through the bushes to get to, to approach a building unseen, you could say, "Well, I'm moving, but I'm trying to do it in a way that keeps me hidden." Hell, you could even make an argument for control for that. Like I am, because control is their finesse ability. So like I am finessing my way through these bushes. I am moving with skill and purpose in order to avoid stepping on twigs and to remain hidden while I move. Like that there you could make a good enough case. It's like in D&D where acrobatics and athletics are so interchangeable that you can almost always make a case to your DM to use the other one if the DM tells you to make a roll.
And most DMs just allow you to do it anyways.
Yeah, like, hey, could I make an argument that I'm going to... you asked me to do an athletic thing, but I want to do it acrobatically instead. Which just means with flair. I'm doing it dexterously instead of strength-based. That's... Yeah, so I feel like that's... yeah, and then in each category, each overarching stat, nerve, cunning, intuition, you have drive.
Mm-hmm.
And there's little shaded in things on each character sheet. Each sheet is sort of distinct in what's shaded on the stats and what's not.
And yeah, that depends entirely on the character you take.
Yeah, so we'll
class
talk.
per se.
Yeah, we'll talk about classes in just a minute, and we'll get into that. So you have your drives, and based on which class you're playing, you have a maximum you can take in each particular drive. It looks like the top one is 4. You get one that's a 4, one that's a 3, one that's a 2 to start off. And so you can use your drive to add a die to a test at any point. And so the way this system works is you're going to roll the number of d6s equal to your stat, and you're going to take the highest number.
Mm-hmm.
And as with any of these d6 systems, a 6 is a success, a 4 and a 5 are a mixed success, which means it comes at a slight cost to you. Something bad happens in exchange for being able to complete it. It doesn't not always a bad thing, but and then a 1 through 3 is just a miss. So if you don't have a dot and a stat, if the DM says, okay, well, what you're doing is obviously sway, and so I want you to make a sway roll to try and convince this person of what you want. And you're like, I don't have any dots in sway. Then you roll 2 dice and take the lower result. It's basically disadvantage.
Yes. Speaking of results.
Yes.
Yeah. It's a D6 system. So it has a very simple pass fail here. Depending on how many D6s you roll, if the highest roll you make is between 1 and 3, it's a failure. You don't accomplish what you wanted, and there are consequences to that failure. The DM comes up with those. On a 4 to 5, it's a mixed success. You accomplish what you wanted, but it comes at a cost. And then 6, of course, is a full success without any unintended consequences. If you roll multiple 6s, because you have multiple dice, it's a critical success, and you get what you want, and something extra.
Yeah. So here's the one of the interesting things they've done here, like this, so they've gotten rid of the like I said, it's very similar to Forged in the Dark, but it is they've gotten rid of the position system from Forged in the Dark, which is the only it's the only complication. It's the only rule complicated thing. Every time you want to make a roll in Forged in the Dark, you say, all right, I'm going to make a sway roll to convince this person to do a thing. And you have to ask your DM, what is my position? And the positions are like risky, controlled, or desperate. And then you have to ask the effect, which is standard, lesson, standard, or critic, or great. And rolling desperately is something that gets you automatic XP in that system. So this is doing it a little differently. There is no positioning here. You're just rolling your stat. The DM says make a roll, you make a roll. And if you need to add to it, you can spend a drive point. As it was noted by someone else I saw talking about this system, you want to play this with pencil, because you're going to be filling in and marking off a lot on your sheet. Yes. I assume it will not take long for someone on Roll20 to create an interactive character sheet where you can just click on the boxes. But until we get that, play with a pencil, folks. The other interesting thing, and this is also this feels very Vampire the Masquerade, the newest edition of Vampire the Masquerade anyway. You have gilded die. Each class has two of their abilities that are gilded. They have a little diamond next to the ability that is filled in. And your gilded die is when you roll that particular skill, you roll a die that is a different color than the rest of the die that you roll. So if I have 3 in survey as a slick, and we'll get to the classes in a second, then I would roll 2. For example, I would roll 2 gray d6s for my survey plus 1 blue d6, and I would roll them. And if I want to use my gilded die, which is the odd colored die, I could instead of taking the highest number that I rolled, I can take whatever number is on the gilded die as my highest die roll. And by doing that, I get to fill back in a spent point of drive.
So yes, you could take a failure to get drive back.
Or, if you roll a 6 on your gilded die, you get a drive back for free, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So there is that. That is that is the basics of how the system works. When you fail or when you take damage in this system, there are 3 types of damage you can take. You can take body damage, which is like, exactly what it sounds like. You are taking physical harm. You can take brain damage, which is basically you take brain damage. Damage in this system is called a mark. So you can take a mark to your body, you can take a mark to your brain. That's psychic damage, basically. And you can take bleed damage, which, as we covered earlier, means that you are more susceptible over time. You become, the more bleed you have, the more susceptible to magical influence you become. And each of those has 3 boxes that can be shaded above above them. And when you take 3 marks in any of those categories, or in one of those categories, so if I get all 3 brain marks, I take a scar. And scars can be very different. Scars are reflective of the type of damage you took. So a scar could be like a new personality trait, a
Yes.
paranoia, something like that.
Yeah, like yes, a brain damaged scar. A brain scar could be PTSD.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I'm trying to see if I'm trying to find where they might give examples. If it's body, it might be a limp or a missing eye. If it's brain, you might become withdrawn or reckless. If it's bleed, perhaps there are always dripping black ichor, or your body grows a small luminous tendril where once you had hair. Tendrils where once you had hair. So you get weirder if you get bleed.
Mm-hmm. Now, the cool thing about the scar system, though, is you erase one of your points, all your attribute points there, and you put it somewhere else.
Yeah. And like, I could see, like, I'm one of those people that very like carefully builds my character.
Mm-hmm.
And so I could see that like really chafing my hide. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But
I gotta move a point. But I want, but like, it's kind of cool because your character is actually changed by having these scars.
You may have taken enough blunt force trauma to the head. You can't read as well anymore, but hey, you've gotten really good at control because you can focus around that damage or something like that.
And if you so when you take a scar while on assignment in the middle of play, you are rendered incapacitated, and it is up to your team to get you out.
Yep.
I don't think there's a way to come back from incapacitated until the assignment is over. You're basically out of the game for the rest of the session.
Mm-hmm.
So that is interesting. But and speaking of being out of the game, if you take 3 scars, when you take your 3rd scar, you're done.
You're too messed up to play anymore.
You don't wake up from that unconscious. Or if you do, you're not at all functional anymore.
This very much feels Call of Cthulhu-esque in some way.
It does. It's got a lot of that influence. If it's me, I think if I'm running this, if you take too many bleed scars, I think that 3rd scar, you go down, and when you wake back up, you're possessed. You're gonna slink off and become the new big bad. I think that's a much more interesting way to go with it. Like, this guy you guys used to work with, this character you used to play, his body isn't his anymore. There's something else in there that's driving him. He's gone. He's a husk. And yeah, that's the way I would run that, and I think that would be very interesting to play with. Yeah, so now that we've talked about that, let's talk about the classes. As soon as I can scroll down to them.
Okay, stakes are part of this for the rolls. The GM decides whether it's a low, normal, or high stake roll, and that just kind of guides.
Yeah, it's not as set. I mean, like, positioning is really important in Blades in the Dark, or Forged in the Dark. That's the name of the system. The game that it started in was Blades in the Dark.
Yeah, but it looks like basically the stakes are just kind of the consequences of the roll. If the low stakes roll and you fail it, okay. High stakes roll, you're gonna take damage if you fail it.
Right. So, and that's just something to, that's just a way to let your player know. This is me. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong here. Tell me if you think the way I do here, Raf, that stakes are, it's just language so that you convey what the consequences are going to look like to your player.
Yes, it's nothing quantitative. It's all descriptive.
Right. So it's just like, hey, just so you know, I don't think I would ever mention that a roll is low stakes, unless we've been rolling high stakes a lot and now it's different. That's the only situation where I could see, like, needing to mention low stakes roll. But when someone's about to roll something, as the DM being like, before you roll, just so you know, this is going to be high stakes. If you fail, there are going to be big consequences.
Yep.
And then
that will help drive whether they use drive.
Right. And it gives the players a chance to even argue back, to negotiate. Be like, here's why I don't think this feels like high stakes. And because this is a collaborative story, if they make a good enough case, you as the DM can be like, you know what, you're right. This isn't as high stakes as I felt like it was. You make a good point. If you fail it, it's not going to be as bad.
Or it's bad anyways.
Yeah. Or, like, you say it's a low stakes roll. I mean, as a player, I could see very much in this system where, like, the consequences are almost as much fun. Being like, I feel like this is high stakes. I feel like this is big. And if I fail, I feel like it's going to be bad. And you could convince the DM in the other direction. Because it'll be more fun. By all means, yeah. And so that's interesting. So, So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 classes in this game, and each class has 2 subclasses underneath it, 2 specialties.
Yep.
So you want to tell us what those are, Raph? You want to do that part? I feel like I've been
Sure.
talking a lot.
All right, we got the first one, the roll. They call them rolls. The roll is the slink. This is kind of your rogue-esque.
Yes.
They got the one roll, another scout. Basically, if you take time to zero location, you can spend 1 intuition to ask a question. And the specialty is criminal. Under the specialty of criminal, you get street smarts and leverage for abilities that you can take. Interesting.
Yeah. Where's the other one? I'm trying to find it. Do we only have?
Yeah, we only got 5.
Yeah. Okay. So they don't have them all listed. The character sheets they put out with the quick start guide, which is free, only have 1 specialty for each class. Now, in the rules themselves, we have all of them listed. So that was the criminal, right? That you had up.
Yes.
Yeah. So we don't know what the specialty will be for the other one, but the other side of the slink is the detective.
Yes. I was trying to find where that was listed, but
yeah, it's page 7 of the PDF for the main rules. Next to rules and consequences under building a character.
Okay. B3.
So,
what's up next? We get next one on the is the scholar. These are your thinkers, your doers, and of course the specialty is the professor. You get well read for being a scholar. Then the professor, you got steel mind and chemical concoction. Ooh, that scientist.
Yes. And then the other specialty that you could take as a scholar is doctor. So you could be the party healer. You could be the person, the MD, as opposed to the PhD. Scholars, you get 2 options: MD or PhD.
And remember, this is a turn of the 19th century, 1900s, or no, 1800s.
Yeah, which one? Which century is it?
Yeah, no shit.
Um,
welcome to the time. It's a pain in the ass. What century are we in? Oh, there's lots of coal and smog.
Dice mechanics, drives. I'm looking for. I know I saw it. Setting. Here we go.
Yeah.
No, not in the setting. Was it at the very, very beginning?
We got lighthouses.
Yeah, but the lighthouse is the nickname for the
yeah.
the Candela Obscura organization.
Oh yeah, good point.
Blah blah blah.
Oh yeah, and lighthouses are important actually.
Very important. Where did I see that? I don't.
Yeah, we got parchment writing.
It feels very Victorian, so it feels like late 1800s, early 1900s, sort of industrial, the early industrial age. That period of time when spiritualism was very, very popular.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Okay, so
next up we have the role of the face. This is your con man. This is your front guy. This is your charisma character. The specialty that they have in the pre-gens is the magician, which is interesting. Although that does kind of make sense because his abilities are misdirection and the prestige. And then the face ability is I know a guy.
Right.
I know a character with that one.
the other specialty for the face, the one we don't have any stats for yet, is the journalist.
Ooh. Always get in trouble with the journalist.
Right. It should also be noted that your starting stats for each character are sort of already chosen for you based on what you're playing. So, like, it seems to be, I'm looking at it now, much like with your drives. No, exactly like your drives. So, your drives give you have a max amount of drive of in each of the 3 categories of stats. You have a 2, a 3, and a 4.
Nope.
And under each of those, you have you get 3 points, 2 points, or 4 points under each of those stats. So you're always going to have one stat per character that you don't start with any skill in.
Yes. Well, they mixed up the drives a bit because look at the next one, the weird. He has no drives in nerve.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, cunning has three drives, and then intuition has 6 drives.
Oh well, all right. So yeah, so there's so it varies from character to character. You're going to be a lot stronger in some areas and a lot weaker in others. Some are a little more min max. That's fine. Yeah. Okay. So I was looking at a more balanced character to start off with the who was I looking at? I was looking at the Slick. Yeah, I was looking at the Slick. The Slick is a very balanced character. Okay.
Yep. Yeah. So the Scholar kind of follows that mold. The face kind of follows that. The face is even across the board almost. And then
in drive, but they still only start with 1 in control and nothing in move or strike. Which makes sense for a face.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Is the weird. This is your cultist, a lot of it. Yeah, literally the specialty is the occultist that they show here. Yes. Let them in is one of the abilities. Whenever you take 1 or more bleed marks, you also gain additional information about the phenomenon that harmed you. Ooh, that could be a very interesting ability.
Yeah.
You also get Ghost Blade and extend your senses. So yeah, this is very much your occultist, your spiritualist. What's the other one on this side?
Medium.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. So this very much feels like the era where Harry Houdini would be trying to debunk you.
Yes. And then on top, the last one they put in there is the muscle roll. And especially is the explorer. Behind me, you can protect people, and then tenacious and field experience. This is your muscle bound helper, your front guy with muscles.
Yeah.
Your fighter.
And the other specialty is soldier.
Yep.
So when you break it down, you can play as a journalist, a magician, an explorer, a soldier, a doctor, a professor, a criminal, a detective, a medium, or an occultist. Those are your 6 basic choices for your archetype, and each of those is tied to an overarching role. And that's pretty cool. I like the way each one has their own different gilded dice.
Mm-hmm.
Like the Weird's gilded dice are force and sense. That feels perfectly right. The muscles are move and strike.
Yep.
And it should be pointed out, we read off some abilities, but under each of these, there are, under just muscle, you get 1 ability. There are 2 others that are only listed in the full version of the game, which we don't have yet.
Yep.
Under explorer, you get 2 abilities, and then there are 4 that won't be out until we have the full game. So, and all of them are following that same pattern. So there are abilities you get to choose when you level up to make your character cooler, to give you special moves that you can make, that you get to choose as you level up. But we don't know what all of them are yet because we don't have the full game in front of us. We just have the quick start guide.
Yep. So it's about that time. Before we
Yeah,
start
we
the next big part of character creation, which I think is the coolest part. So
Yes, absolutely. All right, yeah. So we're gonna take a break. We're gonna go get our refresh our beverages and get our snickety snacks, and we'll be right back to cast some more guidance right after this break. Stay tuned, guys. travelers. We just took our break, got our snickety snacks, got our beverages of choice. I spilled coffee everywhere because there's a malfunction with my coffee maker, and it was not good. And I'm sorry that took a little longer than usual. Before the break, we were talking about the new system put out by the folks over at Darrington Press, which is an arm of Critical Role, called Candela Obscura. We're going to keep diving into that. But first, we have a couple more partners in this endeavor we'd like to take a moment to shout out. Those partners are, first up, NordVPN. NordVPN provides military-grade encryption for all your devices. It protects you from malware and spyware and hackers, and searches the web for your information to make sure it hasn't gotten out there. And if it gets out, they take care of it for you. It also lets you set your virtual location through one of their servers as being not where you actually are, which makes it harder for hackers to get to you, and gives you the added bonus of checking out what's on streaming services in other countries. Like if you go to Netflix in England, there's a lot of British options that aren't available in the US. So if you like, say, British crime dramas, you can go watch a bunch of British detective stuff and enjoy those on Netflix virtually through changing your location. We would also like to take a moment and thank Phineas Coffee, fine purveyors of highly caffeinated coffee for all your caffeine needs to keep you through those long gaming sessions. Try Phineas Coffee and don't spill it all over the counter. To get to NordVPN, you're going to go through our website, which is willofthedice.com, and click the link there. To get to Phineas Coffee, you're going to go to bit.ly/WOTD Phineas. That's bit.ly/WOTD Phineas to check them out and get your own Phineas Coffee today. Now, back to Candela Obscura. We had gone through character creation options for all of the your basic stats, your initial fill-ins for your name and your pronouns and your circle. I remind you that circle is like your crew. That's your group. Your style, your catalyst, your inciting incident, and the question you are seeking to answer. We'd also gone through marks and scars, which are how you take damage in the game, and when you know it's time to retire your player or your character, not your player. So, Raph, what's next?
Next is the part that I find most interesting about this system. It's the creation of your circle. This is the creation of your group's character sheet. Your group has a character sheet for this. Your circle has a character sheet. It's really cool, and that's why this very much makes it a group game. You all come together and kind of decide what you take for abilities and what your advancements are. Of course, you got the member's name. It's a totally separate sheet. Campaign tone and feel. Dark Scooby-Doo. And then you track illumination, which is your circle advancement. As you go through complete assignments, you advance along your illumination and you get additional things. This is how your characters kind of level up.
Oh, real quick, we should jump back since we're talking about leveling up. Each role, which is your class, basically, at the bottom of the character sheet, there are illumination keys. And this is how you tell if you get character XP in the game. At the end of each session, you see if you've done any of these things, and if you've done any of them, then you get to add XP to your character. For example, the face, their illumination keys are perform a trick, spot a ruse, or seek out real magic. And if you do any or all of those things, you get XP based on doing those things. Mm-hmm. And so that's something at the end of an adventure you get to talk to your DM about and say, hey, I think I performed a trick, and here's what I did that I think qualifies as performing a trick. Do I get XP for that? And how much, do I mark more than one because I did it multiple times, whatever? Or I sought out real magic. Mm-hmm. Some of these will be no-brainers. Some of them might require a little
role play, like the weird one. Act bizarre.
Right. So yeah, that's that. Yeah. So it's Yeah, they also consulting arcane texts get you XP as a weird, or collecting oddities. So these are things that you. Hey, I picked up that thing. Does that count as an oddity, DM? And
that thing that
you can
stole?
you can negotiate with that and see if you get XP for it. Likewise, I believe I saw it somewhere. Circle mechanics.
Yep. Same thing. You get illumination questions and keys for your circle as well. Such as, did you contain or destroy a source of bleed? Did you provide comfort or support for those affected? Did you bring something of importance back for Candela Obscura to study? You earn 2 illumination for if not all players fulfilled any illumination keys during the session. Earn 4 illumination if every player fulfilled at least 1 illumination key during the session. If nobody in the circle filled any of their keys, take no additional illumination.
Right. So, yeah, I think that's a cool way of doing it, because it rewards everybody for participating. If everybody participates, everybody gets more reward towards the circle, and the circles get abilities.
Yep.
So you get sort of a group skill that everyone can use. For example, we talked about if you take a scar during a session, you are incapacitated. Under circle abilities, one of the circle abilities is Nobody Left Behind. When a member of your circle takes a scar and drops incapacitated, any rolls the player makes in the scene to protect them, a player makes it in the scene to protect them and keep them out of danger, gets +1 die.
Yep.
So that's another thing that you'll be like, hey, I'm stepping in front of this guy, but we have this ability, so I'm going to roll an extra die when I do it.
Yep. You also get resources as a Candela. You stitch, refresh, and train, and this is how you, in between assignments, this is how you heal up. Like stitch is to heal all of one player's marks. Refresh is to fill all of one player's drives and resistances, and train is to gain 1 bonus die that you can use on any roll in the next session. And this is how you kind of, in between assignments, recover damage done to you and resources expended. But you only have so much that you have for the circle before you got to get those refreshed in the circle as well.
Right. So this gives you some resource management for your circle. Who's the most hurt? Who needs, like, maybe the person on this mission that's the most hurt doesn't have any scars, but a person who has 2 scars got kind of hurt. And maybe you choose to stitch the person who has the most scars to keep that character in the game longer, rather than healing the person who doesn't have any scars but took the most marks in that one session. So that's an interesting thing you can do with your circle. So
yeah, it's interesting. And what I do like, one of the circle abilities at the bottom, one last run. When you select this ability, the next time you fill your illumination track, your circle will retire from service. Everyone takes all 4 options during the character advancement portion. This is we've chosen to take this ability as the final. This is it. We're done. We're retiring after this. Our circle is going to be broken. Everyone powers up for one last run.
Yeah, and that's a really cool idea. I really like that one.
Character advancement. At character advancement, each player can choose 2 different options. Add 1 action point, add 2 drive points, take a new ability, or gild an additional action. So it's all about filling in those dots for those various abilities.
Right. So, yeah. I'm trying to find right now. Here we go. One of the things we hadn't covered yet, and it's listed under right underneath the drives on your character sheet, are your resistance.
Yes.
And you get a varying amount of resistance in each of your ability categories, nerve, cunning, and intuition, based on which character you're playing. Resistance are the PC's way of pushing back against their consequence. Anytime you don't like the result of your roll, you may choose to spend a resistance from the pertaining drive. You have 1 resistance per 3 maximum drive. The resistance does not go away if you spend your drive points. For example, if your maximum drive is 4, but you spend 3 drive, so now you only have 1, you still have your resistance. Spending resistance, you re-roll a number of dice equal to your rating of the action used for the previous roll. You may not include dice from any spent drive or assistance that an ally gave you. If the action is gilded, you may still roll with the gilded die. If the action you are re-rolling has a value of 0, you roll 2 dice and take the lower, just as usual. You must accept the result of the new resistance roll unless you spend another resistance to roll again. So when you're going to take a consequence, and it could be bad, like it might give you a mark that leads to a scar and puts you out, you can say, you know what, I'm going to try and resist that, and then you re-roll. But you have to burn a thing. And you resistances and drives both come back in the same way, and that's during the sort of downtime between missions, when I believe that's part of refresh.
Yes, refresh.
And if I remember correctly, when I was looking through this, refresh didn't specifically say resistance comes back, but okay.
Yeah, refresh to fill all of one player's drives and resistances.
Yeah, okay. There you go. So, yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, it's a good system. I like the system. I like that it feels like it took some of the most novel and interesting parts of several other systems and sort of put them together in a fun way.
But yet there's more. There's one other mechanic we haven't touched on yet.
There is.
Yes, it's called gear. Every character has a set of gear. And during each assignment, you choose up to 3. So on the character sheet for that character set, it gives you a list of gear. And as you're going along the invention, like for the face, they may need a hidden weapon. No, flash fire and smoke bomb. I need a flash fire and smoke bomb all of a sudden to distract somebody. So as one of your 3 pieces of gear, you could check that off during the middle of the session. All right, I've used one of my gear points. I now have flash fire and smoke bomb with me to use for this.
Right. And that's very similar to the Forged in the Dark system. Forged in the Dark has your loadout.
Mm-hmm.
And before you go on a job in Blades in the Dark, you choose your loadout, and your loadout is light, normal, or heavy. At light, I think you get 2. At normal, you get 3, and at heavy, you get 5. And you don't choose what gear you actually take with you before you go on the job. During the job, at any point, you can choose any gear off your list or anything off your loadout and say, "Oh, I have this with me this time," and you mark it off and you spend your gear points. So it's very similar to that, where I don't have to worry about carrying everything I own on me. I say, I'm carrying this much stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm carrying, I knew what we were getting into. And so, or I had an idea what we were getting into as my character. So I just get to pick in the moment, like, oh, that would be handy right now. I obviously brought this with me. You sort of get to retcon your gear.
Yeah, and they
in the moment.
And this is a very simpler. You have 3 choices. You have 3 points you can spend essentially throughout the assignment for your gear. And I'm like, perfect. It's nice. It's simple. And like you said, it takes away that tedious chasing of how much gear, what do I need to bring with me, what do I not need to bring with me.
It takes away the bag of holding. Oh my God, how are we carrying all this much stuff? Let me look through this inventory list that I had and find that magic item that you gave me 8 sessions ago that I forgot about until just now.
What?
It takes that out of the equation. And gives you the opportunity to, like, you still get to do that fun thing of using a piece of gear the way it wasn't intended to be used. Like, you see an opportunity and you're like, oh, if only I had smoke bombs with me, I could do this with them. Oh, wait, no, I do have smoke bombs with me. I'm going to mark off a gear point and I'm going to have smoke bombs. Yeah, so that's really cool. I like that a lot.
Because it fits well for this narrative style of game system.
Yeah, and all right, so one of the things that I'm noticing, or I should say maybe not noticing, and maybe this will be more in the full version when we get it. I'm looking to see if they have a section on this in here, and I'm not seeing it. Okay, here we go. They have connections, your relationships on your character sheet. There's a spot to fill that in, which is sort of how you interact with your other circle members. Connections are bonds that you establish between characters during character creation, assign relationships between investigators, ask questions about their shared goals, interweave character backstories to foster more engaging gameplay. In a full game, there is a defined method for building relationships. For the purpose of the quick start guide, simply write the name of a character and your connection to them. So yeah, I'm really curious to see how. I want to see their relationship system. Powered by the Apocalypse has one of the best relationship systems I've ever seen. It's, you sort of build a web. You say, okay, and connections can be negative or positive. You can say, I have a rivalry with this other person that's in my group, this other player at the table. We have beef about this thing, and so there's a little tension between us.
Speaking of tension, I'm do a quick segue. Thank you very much, Siri Cat, for gifting a sub to one of our other followers.
Yes, thank you, Siri. Appreciate you.
Yeah.
So you get and you can have positive connections. Like, we share a bond about this thing. We're both really into surfing. I don't know. I pulled that out of my ass, but we're both really into surfing. So that's a thing we bond over, and we have a connection because of that shared interest.
Oh yeah. And it implies in here in the full game, there's a defined method for building relationships. So it applies to the game mechanic behind it that'll assist or not assist during the game when you deal with these things, which could be fun.
So in Powered by the Apocalypse, the way it works is you get XP for it. Now, that's probably not what they're going to do here. Otherwise, they would have already listed it. I think it'll be maybe you get a bonus when you help a person you have a strong relationship with or something. I don't know. But and Powered by the Apocalypse, at the end of a session, when you're marking XP, one of the things you do is you go through your relationships. And if you have resolved the connection that you wrote down, you can choose to take XP for it and write a new connection. Like, maybe you and I were cool, but something happened. Like, we had a bond over surfing. I'm still using that bad example. We had a bond over surfing, but then you hung me out to dry in a situation we were in. And so now I'm gonna, because we discussed surfing, I'm gonna mark XP for that, and I'm gonna cross off that bond, and I'm gonna rewrite a rivalry between us because I'm mad at you because you hung me out to dry. And until we role play resolving that conflict, we don't mark XP for that. Now, you don't have to have beef back with me about it. It can be one way. And so what's on your sheet, your connections on your sheet are different than the connections on my sheet and different than the way we write XP and the way we write new bonds. And I always thought that was a cool system. I love the bond system from Powered by the Apocalypse. I think it's one of the best things. I'm curious to see in the full version of this how they're going to handle your relationships. And I hope they have an equally cool system for this.
Yeah.
The system like this needs weight behind it, in my opinion. Writing down that I have this thing with you that gives me a little bit of fun role play is one thing, but I'm less incentivized to bring it up if there isn't some mechanical effect, if there isn't a good system. Marking XP for it is a great system, because knowing that I get XP just for interacting with you about our relationship incentivizes me to interact with you about our relationship, to find a way to organically bring that into the conversation. Granted, bringing surfing into the conversation organically might not work in this particular system, but as the example I used, we find ourselves in the sewer and there's a piece of wood and there's a rush of water coming, and I'm going to try to use control to surf my way down the sewage tunnel, and save you or whatever. And when I finish saving you, I look at you and I go, just like Bodhi, man, just like Bodhi. And now we've role played our connection, and that's a thing that I can mark XP for. That's a horrible example, and I apologize to everyone. I just made it.
I think that was actually a Scooby-Doo episode where they did that.
Probably.
Just saying.
But yeah, so that's you know, both love Dagwood sandwiches, and in the middle of the in the middle of the assignment, we happen to find a fully stocked kitchen and make ourselves Dagwood sandwiches, because that's something that Shaggy and Scooby would totally do.
Damn straight.
And I almost said Scabby and Shooby, and I don't know why my mouth tried to do that. But yeah, so that would be a way to like we took time out of hunting for this dangerous ghost to make sandwiches together. I think we get XP for that. And we, like I said, we don't know that that's how this system is going to work, but I'm really, really curious to
see how that works in the.
Sorry, I was just looking at Siri's comment that it's so icky. I'm assuming that means not stopping in the middle to make a sandwich, but the surfing thing. Yes, I agree. I'm sorry. I apologize to everyone hearing my voice. Yeah. So in the quick start guide, you also get a field guide, which is a cool little reminder.
It's a
cheat sheet.
A reference guide. Yeah, cheat sheet.
Yeah, that tells you, that gives you a primer for how to add your stats, how to make rolls, all of that. It reminds you how to use your resistances, and all of that. And it's not complete. It doesn't have the character creation basics on it, but it will when the full game comes out, it says. But yeah, it's just a little quick start guide, which is nice. Yeah, I look forward to seeing the full version of this game. It's definitely one I'm interested in playing. I really like the feel of it. I've always been a fan of pulp novels, of pulp stories. This feels very pulp to me. It feels very gritty film noir, turn of the century, with an element of fantasy and weird tacked onto it, which I really dig. So, this would be a cool thing to get in and play with.
Yep, it is. Yeah. So, what's chat think? Anyone left in chat want to say something?
While we're waiting for chat to show up, because I know they're on a delay. The other, like I said before, we said before about this seemed to be geared towards streaming it. Not that you have to stream it to play it, but if you're going to stream an RPG, this one is specifically designed to be easily accessible, to be jump intoable at any point in the game without having to know what came before it. It'll have high turnover of characters, so You're not gonna like if I don't know what this character's backstory is. Oh, he just took his third scar. He's out. We get a new guy.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the narrative of this is also one of the big draws for a streaming audience. That in itself lends itself to me saying itself 3 or 4 more times by itself. Sorry, in the middle of that sentence, I just realized that I had said itself 2 times almost back to back, and I felt horrible about it and had to hang a lantern on it. Okay,
Your soul died just a bit.
yeah, yeah, no, that's
yeah, and it is, and being able to jump in. Okay, I missed 3 or 4 episodes. I can jump back in and just be caught up with what's going on because they're not. It's not designed for a long campaign arc. You could.
It's very episodic in nature.
Yep.
And that lends itself towards easy jumping in.
Mm-hmm.
It's Strange New Worlds versus TNG.
Yeah.
Or actually DS9 would be a better example of that.
Yeah, DS9 was very
arc. It was very big arc.
And I enjoyed DS9. That's my favorite favorite Star Treks.
I love big arc storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't mean you can't do big arc, but you can do it subtly in the background. And when the players realize what you're doing should be the same point that the audience realizes what you're doing. And then if they go back and re-listen, they can catch all the hints you dropped. But they don't need that to be in the moment with the players.
Yes.
Because of the way this game is designed, which is good. Yeah, that's yeah. I want to get the full version of this game when it comes out. I want to try it out.
Yet another stream to add to the the library.
Right, we've got so many. Between tiers, what is that system called? 10 Candles?
Oh yeah, ooh, that one was fun too.
Yeah, between that one and like the problem with, I think it's called. I'm going to Google that real quick and make sure I've got it right. Unless Tira is in chat and wants to tell me, yeah, 10 Candles. Lolly tells me it is. 10 Candles would be hard to do on stream unless, and I'm just spitballing here, unless we could design an overlay where you can put out with the candles like along the bottom of the overlay, and you can remove candles from the overlay as you go.
Mm-hmm.
But this game has sort of that same feel to it, as a very similar raison d'etre, if you will, and would allow you to do that without needing that graphic to do it.
Yeah, it does. It plays well to that episodic feel. I kind of like some of that. But I was more referring to we got 2 streams on Saturday night and Sunday night for World of the Dice. We now have Wednesday night streams every now and then for Shots and Daggers. We'll throw up a 3rd stream, a 4th stream of gameplay going on.
Well, I mean, I'm not so secretly working on in a very similar D6 narrative-driven system. I'm working on a Scum and Villainy game, which is the same sort of system, but the setting is space operatic, very, very Star Wars, very Firefly, very Guardians of the Galaxy.
You're welcome, Spencer.
I'm sorry. Hi, Spencer.
Yep.
You're very welcome. Yeah, you said it, and then I looked down, and my brain processed what you said. So yeah, that Scum and Villainy, I think I really love that system because I'm a giant Star Wars nerd. Ignore my hat.
Spencer Stark. It's not the lead game designer for this game, is it?
Oh, wait. Good catch, Raph.
Uh-huh.
Spencer, are you that Spencer? Tell us now.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Okay. No, we're very excited about your game. We look forward to
Oh
seeing.
shit! It is.
Wow. All right. We once again, folks, Spencer being here is not an endorsement of us or our stream. We are in no way associated with any TTRPG manufacturers, but we're so glad that you're here. Yeah, and I hope we're doing your system justice as we talk
Yeah.
about it. Like I see a lot of influences in it, and they're influences I really love. And I really, if you didn't hear me say it earlier, I really think that you have taken some of the more interesting aspects of systems that I love, some of the fundamental mechanics that I thought were good innovation in systems, and blended them together in a really, really nice way that
Yeah.
makes for an interesting game. And I'm really down to see it. We've said over the course of this that we see influences from Powered by the Apocalypse, Forged in the Dark, Call of Cthulhu, Vampire the Masquerade.
Mhm.
Um,
And,
so
but they've done it in a very slimmed down, easy to run, quick rule set. It's not heavy at all. You don't have to spend a lot of time digging through rules to find things, and it's all right there. And it very much allows for that narrative style to go forward. So yes, I am looking forward to this game coming out fully, and there will be copies in my mailbox at some point.
yeah, and you know what? This, like we've said multiple times, this seems very designed for streamability for people to run it on streams, and I feel like the that lends to one shots. Like we could do one shots of this that are sort of recurring one shots with a circle where you just whenever we feel like it, whenever we can fit it into the schedule. Hey, everybody, want to jump into, and even if the same people can't show up, we can still add people to the circle and go out and run a thing.
Yeah, as we pay attention to the chat.
That is awesome. Yeah, Scum and Villainy is one of my absolute favorites. Like I said, I've been developing. I have a Dungeon World page, or World Anvil page rather, where I've been designing my galaxy for and flushing it out for what I want to run in Scum and Villainy, and eventually that campaign will be on this channel when I finish making an entire galaxy based on what came out with Scum and Villainy.
So cool.
Yes, thank you, Siri. World Anvil. Yes, that's what I meant to say the first time. I'm still flabbergasted that we have the lead game designer in chat, and I don't know what else to say.
But and I don't know how much I want to ask him things because.
Yeah, I'm gonna blunt ask what we were just talking about. Can you give us any tidbits about what the relationship system is going to be? Because that's the one thing that there isn't a lot about in the rules so far. We know it's going to be there, and we're guessing that relationships are going to be incentivized in some way based on what the quick start guide says. But can you give us anything about that? Will you a tidbit of something, a spoiler, if you will?
Now we gotta wait for the 20
seconds. Now we're gonna and then he has to type an answer, and so that's I said he, and I apologize. I'm assuming your pronouns, Spencer. I will say they until I know otherwise. But yeah, that's the one thing we have a real big question mark on. Like, we don't get the abilities for all of the sub roles, the specialties, in this quick start guide, and we don't expect to. And there are things that you should not put out in the quick start guide so that we're encouraged to buy the whole book when it comes out. But I'm really super curious about that relationship system.
Yeah.
It is there's nothing except that it will be covered later. Okay, that you know what? That is a fine answer. As we talked about, Powered by the Apocalypse, your bonds let you mark XP, and so it will be. I'm gonna take your answer to mean it will be incentivized in some way. There will be a mechanical reason to play with your relationships and develop them as you go, and that makes a good game.
For those who can't see the chat, is his response is, "I can't yet, but know it's going to be familiar from games I've worked on before." So yes, it'll be something similar, and I look forward to it. It should be fun. And the setting, you spent a lot of time. There is some actual setting in the guide itself.
Yeah, and
the setting of Candela Obscura, which is cool. We didn't dig into the setting itself much at all. We've been pretty much focused on the mechanics for this stream.
I mean, that's because we're giant nerds who like to talk about rules minutiae. So we've been talking about rules, and that's sort of the whole point of this stream. But yeah, there's a lot. If you are interested, you should go to shop.criticalrole.com and download this free quick start guide. There's a lot of good information in here about the world setting. There are a lot of terminology and factions and things already listed that really build out the world. Given that this is from Darrington Press and Matt Mercer is involved, I expect nothing less than him to have a giant notebook detailing every shop in every district because that's where his skills seem to be at their top.
Don't listen to Tier. Thank you very much, Spencer, for stopping by. We appreciate your input and just stopping to check out the small little stream. It means a lot. Thank you.
Yes, yeah. Thank you, Spencer, for stopping in. We are so grateful you did. And we look forward to getting to play your game on stream when it comes out fully. It should also be noted that there is, in addition to all of the world building that's in the Quick Start Guide, there is also an entire adventure you can play. An assignment that's the terminology used that you can actually play through. That will give you a good feel
for the system and for what goes on. Yeah, there's a lot to it too. It's not small. So it'll be fun. I don't want to give much away about the assignment because, well,
we're definitely not going to delve into the assignment. I will say that just scrolling through the assignment, I'm just going to read off the headers for the assignment to tell you how much is here. The premise, what's actually going on, the history, the hook, the arrival, exploration 2. So there are 2 phases of exploration, complete with a very lovely, roughly drawn map. Escalation 1, when things start to get real. Escalation 2, when things get even more real. And then the climax, when the fit hits the shan, followed by the epilogue. And beyond this guide, there's a little, and then there are some touchstones. There's some really lovely art that goes with this. God damn it, Tier. You're gonna press that button too hard, man. It's gonna break, and I'm gonna stop reacting to it. I'm just saying. Now I'm to the point of just being like, whatever. No, you can't counterspell heals. Heals are done during downtime in this game, and it's part of your crew sheet, and they cannot be counterspelled.
Damn straight. So, but the touchstones list you a series of books, comics, films, and TV to try and get into a feel for the culture and the genre that this is based on. And
right.
Bioshock is one of them. That's cool. Bioshock, Prestige by Jonathan and Christopher Nolan. No, Hellboy. Yeah, so
definitely big Hellboy feels in this. Constantine by Alan Moore.
Sherlock Holmes. The Night Circus. Yeah, it very much has that feel. It is very much a Victorian area feel behind it, which is
my favorite Neil Gaiman novel, Neverwhere, which is as a touchstone. Yeah, just Chef's Kiss, perfect. That makes me. I would really love to play a very Neverwhere feeling version of Candela Obscura. I think that would be. That's That's right up my alley.
Cool.
Yeah, so when this comes out, this will be something that I'm sure one of us will run at least a one shot for on stream. I'd be totally down. As I think this is a game that I would enjoy running as almost as much as I would enjoy playing.
Mm-hmm.
Like it feels
Oh yeah, especially since
very right.
it's such a narrative base, so the GM is very much involved in the narrative as much as the players are. So
Yeah.
you're not sitting back, as much at times. So.
Yeah, in the films and TV section, I'm noticing, and maybe it's not quite dark and gritty enough. One of the things they don't list Scooby Doo, which I think they should.
Mm-hmm.
But also, there's a show on Netflix that immediately jumped to mind as I was reading this, called Lockwood and Co.
Yes.
And this feels very, very much like that. The difference being in Lockwood and Co., normal people know about spirits and ghosts.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and the lighthouse in Lockwood and Co. is a corporation that is profiting off of paranormal activity. And everybody is licensed that is hunting paranormal things is licensed through that corporation.
Yep.
So that's, I mean, you could easily tweak this game to run that style, make it a little more modern, make it a little more corporate versus little guy. Make your circle like, struggling, and the upper management of your lighthouse be a corporate entity. That would be an interesting take on it and something you could totally do with a system like this.
Well, and yeah, since there's not really stats or the engine there is solid and it can be easily transported to any time frame, any genre you want.
Yeah, I'm really curious because they have already, and we're getting close to time, so I'm going to keep this brief. He says as he pauses to stumble over his words. They've named the system, and then they named the game. So we've got two different things we're looking at here. We're looking at a core system, which is the illuminated system or something like that.
Yes.
And then Candela Obscura is this particular version of the game, which is, it's like Forged in the Dark versus Blades in the Dark. Blades in the Dark is a game. It's got a setting. It has specific things to the setting. Forged in the Dark is the system, and Forged in the Dark can be ported into other. Forged in the Dark was ported into Scum and Villainy, and then they made some tweaks to the system to work with intergalactic things, right? So I'm really, really looking forward to seeing what sort of ports we might get. Who's going to pick this up and license the system rights to go out and make their own version of this to change things? Powered by the Apocalypse is the big one in this field. It's another D6 powered narrative driven system. It started with Apocalypse World, and then they made Dungeon World, and then it got ported all over the place. You've got Monster of the Week, you've got Brindlewood Bay Mysteries, you've got Thirsty Sword Lesbians, on and on. So it's been ported into a bunch of different styles and genres of play. And I look forward to seeing how this does and what weird ports we wind up with and what cool, for weird ports, Brindlewood Bay Mysteries is the greatest of all time, in my opinion. For those who don't know, it is the Golden Girls meet Angela Lansbury in H.P. Lovecraft's Cthulhuian world.
Yep.
And that's beautiful that you could combine those three things and make a game out of it using this engine.
So yeah. We should about time to call it quits. It's hitting our time limit. So
We want to take a moment and thank everyone for joining us. We specifically want to thank Spencer for showing up in chat. Oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
A game dev just walked into our chat, guys, and that's
cool.
To comment on the thing we were talking about today. So that's really cool, and I'm really excited. And I'm looking forward to getting to play this or to run it or something at some point, or both. Hopefully both. Also, take a moment because we didn't do this at the beginning, and I feel like I'm failing in some way. It's June the 2nd, so happy Pride Month, everybody. Raph, you got anything else you want to say before we close this out?
Nope.
Cool. So go ahead.
All right, I was going to take him to close out then at this point. So, greetings, gamers. I am Raph the Mad. I have been one of your co-hosts on this journey through Candela Obscura. It's a wonderful system. And thank you so much for Spencer for showing up in our chat. I can be found at BLK Dragon 13,000 at Dice Stack Camp on Mastodon.
Hi, gamers. I'm still Locke Clark, and I have been your other host on this adventure. You can find me on all the social medias at Locke Unruly. And remember, times get hard, things get tough. Especially right now, we're seeing a lot of pushback from the extreme right about Pride. Target just had to move their Pride display and pull some really inclusive options. There was a swimsuit that had that was tuckable for trans people who haven't been able to afford gender affirming surgery, and they had to pull those off the shelves because they were getting threats of actual violence against their employees. It sucks when you have to cave to terrorists because you want to keep your people safe. And that's what this is. That is terrorism. When you threaten people's lives for selling merchandise in their store. The same people who are yelling the loudest about this are also the ones who say they're for the free market and capitalism, but they're stomping on the free market as they say it, just proving what kind of hypocrites they are. So remember to be torchbearers and light the way for a better tomorrow. We love you all, and we hope you have a good rest of your weekend. And remember, don't cast aspersions, cast guidance.